The handkerchief trembled in Jan Ruffahone's hands. It was embroidered with 7 names, 7 flowers. The Japanese had called them 7 girls plucked from an internment camp on Java, 7 virgins selected for their beauty, 7 lives shattered in what would become one of history's most systematically concealed war crimes. On that February morning in 1944, 21-year-old Jan stood among terrified young women at Ambaroa prison camp as Japanese officers walked the line, selecting. She'd been studying to become a nun when the truck arrived to take them away. Someone pressed a white handkerchief into Jan's palm. That night, knowing what horrors awaited, she had each of the 7 girls sign it. She embroidered their signatures in different colors and kept that handkerchief for 50 years as what she called secret evidence of the crimes done to us. Between 1932 and 1945, historians estimate that between 200,000 and 400,000 women were forced into sexual slavery by the Japanese military. The numbers are staggering, but they barely hint at the industrialized brutality. This wasn't random violence, it was organized, bureaucratized, documented. There were over 125 comfort stations across occupied territories. The Japanese military kept meticulous records. They had schedules, regulations. Some stations even had payroll documentation, though most women never saw a cent. The scale of daily horror defies comprehension. Women typically serviced between 25 and 35 men per day. On days following combat, that number could surge to 40 or more. Do the math. If a woman endured this for even a single year at the lower estimate, that's over 9,000 rapes. Many were held for years. Jan's experience illuminates what statistics cannot. At the House of the Seven Seas in Semarang, the Japanese displayed photographs of the girls on the veranda like merchandise. Soldiers selected their victims from these photos. Jan fought every single night. She cut her hair, trying to make herself ugly, but it only made her a curiosity. She was beaten repeatedly. Even the Japanese doctor who examined them for venereal disease raped them too, leaving doors and windows open so other soldiers could watch. For 3 months, Jan endured this hell. Then suddenly, after visits from high-ranking officials, the girls were told to pack. They were returned to internment camps with a simple, chilling message. If you ever tell anyone what happened, you and your families will be killed. The silence began then and there. The 16 million rounds fired to kill 1 enemy soldier, but there's another number that haunts this story. During World War II, it took an estimated 45,000 rounds of small arms ammunition to kill a single enemy soldier. By some calculations, that number was even higher, possibly 100,000 rounds per casualty. The United States alone produced approximately 41.4 billion rounds during the war. Think about that. Billions of bullets sprayed across battlefields, most missing their targets, fired blindly into tree lines and over hills. Studies of combat behavior revealed that many soldiers could unbring themselves to shoot at another human being. They'd fire overheads, into the ground, anywhere but at another person. During the American Civil War, over 27,000 loaded muskets were found at Gettysburg, many loaded multiple times without ever being fired. Yet when it came to the systematic brutalization of women, there was no such hesitation, no moral resistance, no firing wide. The comfort women's system required no billions of attempts to find its targets. It was efficient, direct, purposeful. The same military that sprayed forests with bullets that missed far more often than it hit, that relied on overwhelming firepower precisely because soldiers struggled to kill face to face. That military had no trouble organizing, scheduling, and executing sexual violence with industrial precision. This is the terrible irony. Warfare reveals a fundamental human reluctance to kill, but rape required no such conditioning. No training films. No desensitization techniques. The comfort women's system didn't need 45,000 attempts to find its mark. The United Nations estimated that 90% of comfort women died during the war. Most who survived carried a shame so profound they couldn't speak of it. Many were teenagers when taken, some hadn't even begun menstruating. Most became infertile from repeated rapes or venereal diseases. Jan kept her silence for 50 years. She married a British soldier named Tom Ruff shortly after liberation. "I love you, Jan. You're beautiful," he told her. Those words, she later said, saved her life. They moved to Australia, had 2 daughters. Jan had 3 miscarriages and required major surgery to repair the damage done to her body. But she told no one the full truth, not even her children. In the Philippines, Narcisa Claveria kept her secret for nearly 50 years too. When she finally told her 6 children what had happened, how she'd been enslaved at age 13, they shunned her. "My children would say, Our classmates might think we are the children of a whore, she recalled. For a long time, they didn't talk to me. This is what made the comfort women's system so effective. It destroyed women twice, once in the act, and again in the aftermath, when shame and social rejection became additional tortures. The Japanese military understood this. That's why they threatened families. That's why they destroyed records after the war. The system operated across occupied Asia with brutal efficiency. Young women were deceived with promises of factory work or simply taken by force. The military preferred virgins easier to control, less likely to already have diseases. Most were between 14 and 25 years old. Many were children. At the comfort stations, the routine was the same. Wake, endure medical examinations that were themselves violations, then begin the day's rapes. Some women were forced to do household chores during the day before being abused again at night. Women who tried to escape were publicly tortured and killed as warnings. Those who became too sick to work were often murdered rather than treated. Army and Navy records didn't even use the word women, they used the term units of war supplies, as if they were ammunition or rations. In August 1991, Kim Hak-soon, a South Korean woman, became the first comfort woman to publicly testify. After more than 50 years of silence, she stood before the world and told her story. Jan was watching television in Adelaide when she saw Korean comfort women pleading for justice. At the same time, she saw news coverage of systematic rape in Bosnia. The two images collided, history repeating itself. She realized she couldn't stay silent anymore. In December 1992, Jan broke her 50 years of silence. She became the first European comfort woman to speak publicly. She was 69 years old. Other survivors began to emerge. In the Philippines, women formed support groups, calling themselves Lola's grandmothers. In Korea, survivors lived together in the House of Sharing. In 2007, Jan appeared before the U.S. House of Representatives. "I have forgiven the Japanese for what they did to me," she testified, "but I can never forget." For 50 years, the comfort women maintained silence. It has taken 50 years for these women's ruined lives to become a human rights issue. But Japan's response remained inadequate. Officials destroyed documentation after the war. Many continued to deny direct military involvement. An Asian Women's Fund offered payments, but many survivors refused what they saw as conscience money. They wanted justice, not charity. They wanted Japan to teach the truth in schools. Here's what haunts me about these two numbers. 45,000 bullets per enemy killed, and 25 to 35 rapes per woman per day, multiplied by months or years, multiplied by hundreds of thousands of women. One number reveals how hard it is to make humans kill each other in warfare. The other reveals how easily sexual violence was deployed as a weapon. Soldiers needed mountains of ammunition to avoid the psychological horror of aiming at another human being, but they needed no such buffer for rape, no hesitation documented in the historical record. The comfort women's system didn't require conditioning or training. It required only opportunity and the dehumanization of women. The Japanese military solved their logistics problem by treating women as supplies. And like all supplies, when the war ended, the evidence was meant to disappear. Records were destroyed. Survivors were threatened into silence. Jan spent her last decades speaking out, traveling the world, testifying before governments. She received honors from the Dutch and Australian governments, but what she wanted most was simple: for Japan to officially acknowledge what was done and teach the truth to future generations. Of the thousands of Japanese soldiers and officers who participated in the comfort women's system, only 77 were ever brought to trial. Most returned to normal lives, became teachers, businessmen, fathers. They raised children and grew old in peace, while the women they brutalized carried nightmares for 70 years. Jan Rufahone died on August 19, 2019, at age 96. Nearly all of the Korean comfort women who broke their silence in the 1990s have since passed away. The Lolas of the Philippines are dying, one by one. Time is erasing the living witnesses, but the handkerchief remains. 7 names embroidered in different colors. 7 girls who became 7 flowers. It sits now in a museum, that small white square of fabric, secret evidence kept hidden for 50 years, now finally, permanently, on display. The numbers tell the story. 200,000 to 400,000 women enslaved, 25 to 35 men per day. 50 years of silence for nearly all of them. And in that silence, the echoes of 45,000 bullets fired to kill one enemy soldier, evidence of our reluctance to kill in war, and our willingness to destroy and rape. That contrast is what we must remember. not just what happened, but what it reveals about which violence we resist, and which we enable, which victims we count and which we forget.